Adam, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. I told you you're welcome back anytime. And I just looked it up before we sat down. It's been 6 months already since the last time you were here.
It's the biannual.
Yeah, there you go. Biannual.
It's the pancake breakfast. We have it every month. Right?
Well, welcome back. Thanks for coming.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah, because we got, the both of us, we got some fun things to talk about today.
We do.
And kind of looking forward to hearing what you all got to talk. Because like I told you before, I've had CEOs in this room. I've had miscellaneous managers in this room, but I've never had a president of anything in this room yet until, your first one, I guess you were still president of them. But now officially, we're going to talk about that.
I think I've been, to kill the suspense for you all, I am the president of the Marengo FFA Alumni chapter. And I don't know, it's been several years, maybe 10, I don't know. It's pretty much the same group of us. We're all happy with what our roles are. And, the bar's pretty low. So
no, not with all you guys, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, no, it's a good group of folks. We've done a lot of really good stuff with helping, the Marengo Ag department primarily. We're like super fortunate. We have a great ag teacher in there. I mean, when I was... so I graduated Marengo High School 2007. When I was a senior, I was president of the school alumni chapter, and then was in FFA all 4 years of high school. And you guys were in Harvard. You guys had FFA, right?
Yeah. We didn't have a stable FFA teacher back then. We had 3 different ag/FFA teachers in 4 years when I was there.
We had a similar problem in Marengo. So when there was the same guy that taught like FFA to my mom was there, and then he retired about the time my brother was in school, I think. And then there was a handful of people that rotated through. My freshman year, we had Dave Bolesco was his name, but he was from down south, and I think his kind of plan was he got a job right out of school until he could get one closer to home. 'Cause, he still farmed and stuff. Not that I really blame him, but and then so when I was a sophomore, we got a guy named Bo Books who was from up by Platteville area. He went to school in Platteville, and he was really good. He really helped us. I mean, I think we had maybe 20 kids in the FFA when I was freshman, sophomore age, and I think they have somewhere around like 60 active students in the FFA now. So we had Mr. Books, Bo, for my sophomore, junior, senior year, and then he was there for several years. And then kind of the same story, he got offered a job up close to where his family's farm is in Platteville, and then as an administrator or something like that. So he ended up going there, and then we had a ag teacher in the interim. I don't even remember her name, who didn't really have a production ag background. There we heard talk about the ag department getting cut from the budget and that type of thing because they didn't have a lot of enrollment and things, So a handful of us, we actually started working on forming an alumni chapter when Mr. Books was still there, and I was probably only a few years out of school, and nothing ever really took off as far as like being official. We were just kind of like there if they needed help with anything. And then once we kind of saw the program going downhill,
not the right way.
Like Dan Ziller was really really helpful in getting a bunch of us organized, and we kind of, were there, backed up all the students, and kind of tried to fill some of the gaps where she didn't have experience, because being an ag teacher's got to be so difficult because you have such a broad range of, they have horticulture, they have soil science, animal science, ag business, then there's
especially in the high school is what we're talking about.
Yeah,
here.
At Marengo High School, yeah.
Well, any high school for that matter.
Well, yeah.
Because you're exactly right. You got to have that wide variety of knowledge to be able to teach all of these things and try to teach it to the best of your knowledge and so that the kids understand and learn something.
And be interesting, charismatic,
Instead of just, here's your book report. Read it today. There'll be a test tomorrow.
Exactly. And you know, so much of the actual hands-on ag, you know, like what we would call farming, what they now call production ag, you know,
Exactly.
like the trucks and the tractors and the planters and the discs and the plows and all the good stuff. You know, that wasn't her strong suit, and people were just kind of losing interest. And then I don't remember how or why she left. And then we got a ag teacher who was from originally out by, I think she was the ag teacher in Dakota, Illinois, somewhere out there. And then her family has a dairy farm out there, and she's just like a home run. It's probably been at least 10 years or so that she's been,
great.
Probably more than that. I'm trying to think.
I'll let you think. I'll talk for a second. So when I was going through high school, like I said, we had 3 different ag teachers in 4 years. Mm-hmm. And my junior and senior year, that's when they started getting kind of a stable ag teacher, but her family was big on golf courses. So she knew horticulture and she knew all of that kind of stuff. But as far as like production ag and all that stuff, she had the degree for it. And she did the best she could. Don't get me wrong. But since then, I think they've had 2. So they've had 2 in 18 years. And both of those girls have put that FFA chapter on their backs and have climbed that mountain. And they are doing a phenomenal job, especially the current one now. I mean, she's totally involved with her students, from greenhouses to making sure that they're going on their FFA trips the way that they need to do it, and expanding their knowledge. And she's doing a phenomenal job.
The amount of time that the Marengo ag teacher puts in for, you know, she's got her normal, 40 hours a week teaching job. Plus, when you look at what the FFA curriculum is, there's like some type of a contest or a judging event or a proficiency. They have all these different names. There's contests that didn't exist when I was in school, or at least we didn't participate in, because we didn't have, the team or the skill set. She's got several things a week that she's doing, and a lot of this stuff's after school, before school. I mean, she deserves like a double salary,
You're not wrong.
And I mean, if you think about it, like, if it was an hourly job, she'd be making double, And
that's not saying that these other teachers don't put in the time in the investment to do this, but ag teachers, they have a lot going on there.
It's like if you were a sports coach all year,
or gym coach, and then going into sports, whether it's wrestling, basketball, football, because baseball. It's like, man, your schedule's tight. I mean, you teach class all day, then you go do practice outside of all that. It's the same thing.
And that's why, like, when we have our meetings for the alumni, we have them at the high school, and then the ag teachers there, and usually the FFA president, and then they'll give us kind of like a state of the union on what they've got going on.
State of the union.
What's on their schedule since last we spoke, and the things that they told us was coming up, how they went. They tell us how they fared. And I mean, we've got kids that are really placing very well at all these contests. Your soil judging and dairy judging, and ag mechanics was always one that we always did well at Marengo when I was in school. I went to state for carpentry 2 years in a row. The only 2 years I competed in it. So,
yes, 2 for 2.
It's a twofer. But then, like, the schedule is just full. And then in the summertime, they have state convention, down in Springfield. There's a lot of these judging activities. And then there's all these team building things that are, during the school year and after the school year in summer and stuff. It's just like, man, high five, bro.
So like as the president of Marengo FFA, do you guys, because I mean, obviously
alumni, you mean, right?
Alumni, sorry. Yeah. Obviously there's, you guys get together once a month to talk about all this stuff?
So what we typically do is we meet every other month during the school year. We don't really meet during I think it works out to be like 5 meetings a year. We should have had Sue Simons and Michelle Harp, because I'm just the guy who talks in front of everybody. They're the ones who really do everything, and I tell them that pretty much every time we're together. But so we usually meet. I think it's every other month, and except for during the summertime, and we just kind of she'll Mrs. Obert, the ag teacher, will tell us what's going on. What do they need help with? And, so they'll have like parents that are needed for volunteers for the judging events, because when we host them or when they go somewhere, certain ones, every kid you bring to the contest, you have to have, for every 3 kids, you need to bring an adult as a scorecard tally or whatever. So we'll take either members of the alumni or, parents of the kids that are in FFA, or, like we'll sponsor things, dollar wise, like when they do dairy products, we pay for the cheese and the milk and all the stuff, the different things, so that they can get a good spot. Cause, the school budget's not great, and we don't want to burn up all their alumni or the students' FFA funds that they could use for trips and
to fund everything outside.
Yeah.
Of that.
So we have a scholarship that we give out once a year to that you can either use for school, or if you're starting like an ag business, so you could take that and if you wanted to buy farrowing crates, you wanted to start a hog operation or something like that, something that applies to that. So it's school or some type of a bona fide ag
cool.
adventure. Yeah. And that's Dan Ziller kind of headed that up. It started off as memorial money from when Kevin passed away. They put all that, and that's what started our scholarship. And then we've kind of put seed money in that from our various
fundraisers
that we've done throughout the years since then. So to kind of keep it going. So pretty much whatever they need, we vote on it, and usually we give them what they've got.
Perfect.
So it's fun. It's just really impressive to see all these young people and how like adult-like they are. When you walk into like 20, 30-year-old people who don't have their head screwed on right. And what day was it? Was it Wednesday? No, Tuesday this week they had Ag Day. So when I was in school, it was always the Friday of FFA week, which was the last week in February. Which usually fell close to my birthday, which was fun. So if you worked the full day at the toy show fundraiser at the high school, then you got an all-day pass out of school to work at the petting zoo. And then all the kids from the grade schools in Marengo would come and rotate through, and then we'd give them a little spiel, and they'd ask questions and kind of teach them about ag. So they had that, and then that's been ongoing. They moved it to summer, the last month of school.
Makes sense.
Because basically it makes more room because they had animals set up outside, and,
and the weather's a little nicer usually.
Yeah, rather than being in February, and when we had to have everything in the shop. So my son's in preschool now, and they needed chaperones. So I played hooky for an hour at work and went and rode the bus with him and went over there. And I just can't believe, the girl from the FFA came on the bus and said, "Hey guys, my name is such and such, and I'm here, and we've got your, they had all the teachers' names to split us up into groups, and they walked us through, and the handful of girls gave a presentation. They had little rotations of different. Gave all the kids a little Dixie cup with dirt in it, and they planted a pea seed in there and explained them all the different stuff of what a seed needs to grow. A lot of stuff people like us know, but a lot of these kids, as urban sprawl takes its effect, it's nice, sprawl. So all these kids know that, and then they made them a little bracelet. There was a little bead on it. The yellow was for the sun, the brown was for the soil, the white was the nutrients in the soil, the blue was water, and then I don't know, I probably wasn't paying attention. I think there was one more, but I'll ask Harvey what's on his beads when I get home tonight. So it's just great to see like
young adults being adults.
Yeah, and they have one of the contests at FFA is a job interview contest. Like, what a thought that we would prepare young people to participate in the workforce.
Brilliant.
Call Mike Rowe.
You're 100% correct on that. 100%
and it's just
correct.
And I never found myself in really an ag career. When I got out of high school, I went to community college, and then I always worked construction. But I remember, so much of that stuff lays over the mechanic stuff. I was always working on equipment. And, I remember when we were doing, road work, and one of the things is when you core out the dirt to to either rebuild or build a road, they got to test to make sure it's good enough. And a lot of that stuff transferred over from the soil horizons, from soil judging in high school, you know, and the engineers over there talking about blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, it's got gray modeling. You can tell it's got bad drainage. We should probably just plan on an undercut. And at the time, I think I was like 21 or 22. He's like, how do you know that? I'm like, don't you worry about that, young man.
FFA, mother effer.
Yeah, he wouldn't have known.
The funny thing is when you go into FFA, you can translate so much of what you learn in FFA 4-H into today's world just by being involved in that community.
Yeah, and it's you know, like we went on the trips and you interact with other people. Like, you know, my wife, the first time I met, she's younger than me, but her brother and sister.
That a boy.
What's it?
I said that a boy.
Yeah, you know, I'm pretty immature, so we almost. She's 4 years younger, and she's still more of an adult than me, but that's okay.
That's okay.
But you know, I met Jay and Kelly. We went on you guys might have been there too. We went on a field trip to the Museum of Science and Industry. So that was back when Huntley had an FFA, and that was one of Dan's concerns is Huntley didn't have enough participation, and their FFA got shit canned. You know, it got nixed because there wasn't enough enrollment, and now I think they're trying to get one back because that's
really,
yeah,
that'd be good.
You know, I heard it on the internet, so it must be true.
But, well, I mean, Huntley, it's blown up big time down there. It really has, but you don't have to go far to find farming community.
Well, a farming community, and there's, you know, you really need to have Dan Ziller on because he's such a good advocate for how agriculture is involved in everything, you know? I mean, and I'd say probably a quarter or maybe a third of the courses that they're teaching in Marengo are horticulture and plant science and that type of stuff. You know, I mean, if you look here or in my area, there's so many big nurseries and stuff with all the urban sprawl, people looking for trees and shrubs. And
but you can still take that.
It's growing things.
And move it right into the agricultural side of stuff, or the opposite way, right? If you're in agriculture, you can take your knowledge of what you have and move it into horticulture, floral science, all that kind of stuff. You can move all of that into
that's
there.
Basically just another branch of the agriculture tree.
It is.
You know? I mean, so many people, if you can get exposure to that at a young age, like Royce, I watched his podcast that was on here. I mean, he's a farm guy, started as a farm kid, right? And he's a very successful heavy equipment operator because,
sure is.
You know, if you can work hard and show up and give a damn, you know, you could throw a person who has that into most situations and they'll do okay. You know,
I agree. And that doesn't mean you have to be part of the farming community to have that.
No,
right?
no, but
you can be part of anywhere. But if you're going to show that you're trainable and you have good work ethic, you're going to succeed in life.
Well, and part of that is why I always relate that to farming is because that's what you need to make it farming. So if you can, you know, if you have exposure to that, you know, you can take that other places.
Well, and then out here too, you know, not to rag on bigger cities and things like that, but out here,
urban sprawl.
The urban sprawl. I guess we're going to use that from now on.
You laughed the first time,
it was
so
funny.
Now I can't unsay it. The worst thing you can do is encourage me.
That's okay. We'll let her fly. Shoot, where was I going to go with this? Oh, this is where I was going to go with this. But you know, you think about 20 years ago, before technology, and 30 years ago, before technology really came along, the internet was just getting started. What did we have to do out here? Not much, right? You were born and raised on a farm.
A lot of silver medal barrels in cornfields on weekends.
You're not wrong, but
I think that's where we met.
Probably. But out here, it was, if you grew up on a farm, and you know, 50 years ago, they had everything on a farm. They had a little bit of cattle, they had a little bit of hogs, they farmed a little bit of dirt, they made some hay, blah, 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 blah. So there was a huge variety. So when these people got older, when these kids got older, it was, oh yeah, I know how to change oil in a car or a tractor. Oh yeah, I know how to grow a plant. Oh yeah, I can probably butcher a hog. Today, it's like, we have all this technology at our hands, so people don't get outside too much. They don't see what's going on around them, when I feel like they could be missing out some, especially on knowledge moving future as kids get older and older.
And I'm probably going to speak outside of my lane, but there's a concept that goes with like psychology and how your brain develops from a young age. And when you're born, you have some number of the synapses is what they call it, and it's all the connections in your brain. And if they don't make connections to things, they kind of go away. So by being in an outdoor, farming, for example, but it could be anything where you're out doing stuff, seeing things, experiencing things, learning, you have all these connections in your brain, and it makes it easier for you to learn things when you get older. Whereas if you just sat inside and watched TV or played Pac-Man, you're not going to have that.
Pac-Man is addicting, though.
I've never was a Pac-Man guy. I found we could go down that tangent later, but I found my Game Boy upstairs from 1994.
Nice.
And I took the crusted blue batteries out of it and jammed them in there and had to wiggle them a little bit, and it worked. And my son played it for about 3 minutes, Mario Brothers, but he couldn't quite figure it out because he's only 4.5. So
give him a couple years.
Yeah.
He'll get it.
We'll save that for next episode. We're talking farming today.
I know we kind of got off on a whirlwind here, but
it never happens.
We'll get back to the FFA. So earlier you said that you guys have fundraisers and things like that to bring money into that. What kind of fundraisers do you guys
My big reason for visiting today is I want to push our two big fundraisers that we do. So we have and I'd have to look back and see. I bet we've done our tractor ride fundraiser for at least 10 years. So Clausen's Tavern in Union. It is, I'll tell you the date.
Yeah, look that up. And for those of you who don't know, Union is a very small town just outside of Marengo. And Clausen's makes a hell of a burger. Just saying.
It's almost walking distance from the Illinois Railway Museum, the largest railway museum in North America.
It's true.
It or not. Which is it's actually a pretty impressive place.
Yeah, they've actually, I know for a fact, they've done at least one, if not two episodes of Chicago Fire out there at the Railway Museum.
Yeah. Now that you say that, that's accurate.
So if you ever watch Chicago Fire, they have done an episode or two out there.
Part of the, one of the Transformer movies.
Really?
They shot on, what is that? That's not Hemmingson. That runs east and west there, where they're... We'll talk about it.
Yeah, that's not Hemmingson. That's...
Hemmingson's further the other way. Is it Olcott?
Leach?
No, Leach goes the other way.
Oh, yeah. Anyways,
when they're getting chased in the Camaro, if you pay attention, you can see some of the grain bins and trees and stuff that are there. So
interesting. Back to your tractor ride.
So basically, it's kind of an idea that I came up with. We were always trying about what we could do for some type of a fundraiser. We used to do a silent auction table at the toy show, and it just, we ended up buying a bunch of our own stuff back and things like that. So, most of our people are people that we know, like tractors, have old tractors, new tractors, whatever. So I was like, well, why don't we just have a tractor ride, kind of similar to what the County Farm Bureau does with Tractor Trek, but, Tractor Trek Light. So it's always the second Saturday in July. So this year it'll be the 13th. And at the time, Jim Hennig still owned Clausen's, and I had said hey, he was an FFA member, and Huntley, years and years ago, his family dairy farmed. And he's like, oh yeah, whatever you want, just tell me when and where. So what we do, we meet at Clausen's there in the morning, and everybody kind of gets settled in, and we've got coffee and donuts, and then we go for about, I think it works out to be just about 20 miles. We've kind of toyed around with slightly different routes over the years, and we kind of figured out what works well. So it takes about 2 hours overall, and the guys get out and, exercise some of their old tractors and new tractors and stuff, and then everybody comes back and, we have lunch, and there's a 50-50 raffle.
So anybody with a tractor can contact you guys and
So I'll send you the links, but we post all the information about it on the Marengo FFA Alumni's got a Facebook page. There's Facebook events for both of these things, both of the fundraisers that we're going to talk about. There's pictures of years past and stuff like that. But basically, you just show up the day of. You pay $20 and you can come with. It's a lot of really great people. Everybody hangs out and gets along. And then we come back usually around noon. One of the kids who was
what time does that start?
I'm going to say it from memory and I'll lie, so I'm going to tell you the right numbers.
Well, just so we got all the facts. So it's July 13th, and it's at meet at Clausen's in Union at
told you I wanted to get it ready. Oh.
Because I'm sure you're going to have to register and everything like that with you guys,
so
right?
it goes pretty quick. Sue and Michelle, the champions of the FFA Alumni chapter, run the sign-in board. So we have you sign a waiver that says, like, if I crash my tractor into a tree, FFA Alumni is not responsible.
Obviously.
Unfortunately, we have these things
It's
now.
pretty bad we got to have that in today's world, isn't it?
I think with the group that's there, it's not really an issue. But
No.
I talked to Ray Jones once, and he's like, it wouldn't be a bad idea. You'd hate to see your charity event go broke because somebody's, stranger things have happened.
He's not wrong.
So you sign that thing, and then everybody just kind of hangs out and
Until you're ready to start driving. Yeah, well, it seems like a pretty cool thing that everybody can come down and bring whatever tractor that they want, whether it's from 1947 to 2024 if they want to.
I think the oldest one I've seen is a couple of was it a G or an A John Deere that was like a late 20s, and then the newest,
completely restored, or I'm sure in great running shape to be able to handle the 2-hour ride or 20 miles.
Yeah, I mean it was in usable shape. Still had its work clothes on, but it was first probably restored like 50 years ago. So it looks it's on its second life.
It's on its second restore.
So registration opens up at 9:00 in the morning.
Perfect.
We're usually there before that, so if you want to show up early, we appreciate that. And then we always shoot to leave by 10:00. We usually leave a few minutes late because every year we have like one straggler that shows up at like 10:05. So we leave at 10:00 and we go for a ride out, and we kind of go east and south of Union. We stop at Billy Rin's farm on Hemmingson Road, and then I always climb up on the grain leg and get a picture of all the tractors lined up and stuff, which is pretty cool. And then some of the older guys need a break to get rid of some of their water. Disperse some nitrogen, nitrogen and urea. And,
hey, that's all right. Some of the crops needed at that point in time.
And then we'll, everybody settles back up when we leave. When we go back, we have lunch. And then we usually draw our 50-50 tickets after that. It's a great group of people. Like we ask that you be at least 16 years old to have a driver's license, kind of just for legality reasons.
Legality is a reason.
And then,
do you have a mechanic on hand, so in case something does happen?
We don't have anything consistent. Jason Mattis usually comes, and then in years past, he's brought his gooseneck trailer. He's got this cool little tag-along thing that he usually pulls behind one of his tractors. So if you have a narrow front, you can drive it up on there. It's like a car dolly. You throw it in neutral, and he can pull you back. Michelle always drives behind everybody in her Tahoe, so in case you break down, you won't be stranded on the side. Because it's in July, so
it can get warm.
And we've been so fortunate. I don't know that it's ever rained or had, other than being hot.
Sure, you had to say that.
I was thinking that as I said it, but. We've always been really lucky to have great weather. So it's just a lot of fun. A lot of good people come out, and, everybody's friendly, and you see people you haven't seen in a while. And, hey, man, how you doing? How's the crops? How's the weather? You get much rain last week?
Yeah. Talk farming, basically.
Yeah.
What you guys is like? Do you know what your turnout was for last year or the year before?
I think the best we've ever had was somewhere around 75 tractors.
Wow, that's quite a bit.
It was low 70s, somewhere around that. I think the last couple years. I think that was the year of COVID. We had.
Imagine that, right?
Yeah,
everybody wanted to get the hell out of the house.
People were buying tractors just so they could come on a ride to get out of the damn house. I don't know much about tractors, but I heard I could get out of the house for 2 hours if I bought one. So,
and maybe have a beverage after that.
There has been 1 or 2 times where a guy's left his tractor in the parking lot.
Well, he was smart about it, or
reasons.
she was smart about it. Either way.
Yeah. So,
can people donate to this?
Yeah, if you want to make a donation.
Because some people aren't going to have a tractor that they can show up and ride on. So.
Yeah, if you want to show up. We usually have a couple people every year who buy a handful of 50-50 tickets and throw them all back in, or, say if I'm leaving, but if my number gets pulled, just donate it back. Which we've had a really good run of that. The majority of the time, people will donate at least half of their 50-50 winnings back, if not the whole thing, which is great.
You don't expect that, but
we don't expect
happens,
that, but
great.
it's just a kind of a testament to the character of the individuals involved. That's pretty cool.
How about you? You gonna take your tractor there this year?
I actually don't have a tractor.
Yeah, you do. We were talking about it.
Oh, I got the 2320.
The 2320.
The monster.
Come on.
I usually, people always ask me that, but I'm usually running around and taking pictures and kind of keeping things going. So
yeah, it sucks to be the president sometimes, doesn't it?
I don't even have executive protection.
Not yet.
I hope it doesn't get to that. I don't want to be a big deal.
That sounds like it's a fun time though.
It's a really good time. So I'd like to keep her going and see it grow, and everybody has such a good time with it. Hopefully we get good weather again. And it's one of the things. It's really, originally that was the only fundraiser we did, so that's how we fund our scholarship, how we do all the things that we help the school with. That's where all that money comes from. I always tell people before we leave, 100% of the money that we make goes to the school, to the kids in some way, directly to them. We don't give it to the school and then have it, budgeted up. So it's kind of like whatever they asked for, we decide whether it's...
Because you guys are volunteers.
Yep, we're volunteers. I do not collect a salary for my presidential duties.
Just like Donald Trump.
Well, that'll be another episode.
God, I think we're up to 4 different episodes now moving forward.
Put it down in your notebook. I'm trying to stay more on task than last time. We didn't have a plan going into it last time. We just wandered around. So,
well, we kind of had a little bit of a task. Mm-hmm. Kind of. Mm-hmm. We found out what we really want to talk about, a day later? But that's all right. We'll get into that another time. Oh,
yeah. We got clearance from the tower to buzz.
Exactly. What's the second fundraiser that you guys do?
So we've had the tractor ride for several years. The truck ride, I know the first year we were going to do that was in 2020. We had that planned before the world went
into chaos.
Yeah, before we had a little bit of a struggle there for a minute. So that was our first. I think we actually ended up rescheduling it. It was supposed to be in April, and then we changed it all around. And basically what we changed it to, we basically just duplicate the tractor ride with trucks, which kind of
pickup trucks or semis,
any kind of truck,
dump trucks.
So kind of how that got started is, like we talked about a little bit before. I've got that Mac, and I'm in the Antique Truck Historical Society. So a lot of those guys are just looking for any excuse to get their trucks out. And so we kind of copied and pasted the same kind of recipe. And we do the same thing with trucks. So pretty much anybody with a truck. We had a guy with a Toyota rock crawler. Nice. We've had a couple guys with Jeeps. I saw a beautiful square body Chevy. It was like a mid 70s pickup.
Nice.
It's predominantly like antique semis. And then, a handful of new semis like Deer Pass Farms and Harps. They'll bring, their Kenworths and stuff all churched up. So that's cool. Pretty much any type of truck. If you've got $20 in a truck,
show up.
Yep. We've got one of my friends from the truck club, Jeff. He's got a 62 or 63 B model, a red B model that he bought. It was mostly restored when he got it, and he's done a handful of things, new tanks and different stacks and stuff. But that's probably my favorite. It's an 18-speed twin stick.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
I don't think I could drive one of those.
He's offered to let me drive, and I'm afraid.
Don't be afraid. You know what they say?
Not afraid, I guess.
If you can't find them, grind them.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm afraid of. I don't want to beat the crap out of this guy's beautiful, 60-some B model. So,
I get it.
So when he started driving truck, he had basically the same truck. And then, it's years later, and now he still drives a Mac for wherever he works for, but it's an automatic. And so he bought that, and he's right away knew right where to go. And it'd been, probably 20, 30 plus years since he'd driven one.
Split sticks. I've only seen videos on them, and it's just like, holy cow.
Split sticks, and then, puts the hand through the steering wheel and runs them both. But he knows right where to do it. And then there's another guy, Mike Kratzer from down by Newark. He's got a Hendrickson, which is like, you ever heard of Hendrickson suspension on semis? Well, they, back in the day, they used to make semis.
No kidding. I didn't know that.
So, and I don't know what year from when to when, but so when he started driving for the company he still works for, they had the Hendrickson that he owns now. He bought it from them, and that was one of the first trucks he drives. And he tells a story about how he put it in the ditch in an ice storm when he was like 18. It just started driving. And that's a twin stick too. It's got a Detroit. I don't think it's an 18. I think it's like maybe a 12 or a 13. But
still,
he sent me some. He like set his phone on the dash, and this was during COVID. There was nothing to do, so he'd take his truck out and do hot laps with the old Hendrickson. And he's like, check it out. And I'm like, wow, that's so cool.
My turn.
Yeah. He'd let me if I asked.
You know, it's funny. I was just thinking about this. I didn't even think about the twin sticks, right? So in today's world, you can get two different CDLs, right? You can get a CDL with manual.
Get like 4.
Well, you can get 4, but I'm just talking if you go Class A combination with air brakes, there's 2 different ones. You can get
an automatic restriction
or a manual, which means you can drive it all. What if you've never driven a stick shift and all of a sudden they're like, oh, hey, by the way, this is the newest truck. It's a stick. It's a twin. It's a twin shift.
Well, and that's.
I'm gonna need some teaching here.
So the thing is, like, if you drove like an 18 speed or a 10 speed or really any of the Eaton type transmissions that are in trucks now, they're really twin sticks, but instead they got rid of the lever and you just have that air shifter.
Yeah.
So like an 18 speed would be a 3 stick because it's basically an 8-speed transmission with a high and a low, and then you can split each gear. So, but instead of having levers, that's what makes it tricky. And then they're synchronized, so you don't have to match your RPMs and everything to make it fly.
Well, that's what I was getting at. It's like if all of a sudden you go to twin sticks, it's like I
be a lot less texting and driving incidents.
Hell of a lot less texting and driving. I don't think I could drive one. Unless I really spent time in that truck watching on how somebody does it, and then me jumping in the seat, grinding the hell out of them gears. That'd be really tough, I think.
I haven't driven like a semi in years. You know, I used to, when I had my CDL permit, I remember taking loads into when my dad was working for a farmer, and I drove that, but that was just a 10 speed, and we were only going from like Marengo to Garden Prairie Elevator, you know? And then I drove a bunch of like straight trucks and stuff like that. And then I hauled a bunch of equipment when I was at the sewer company, but those were all automatics, you know. It was kind of like.
So as far as a manual goes, you haven't driven a manual for a while.
No,
then.
I mean, I had my pickup in high school was a manual, but that's not the same. And then I got the Mac, but I haven't driven that in a couple of years. But that's a twin stick, but it's only a 6-speed, and you don't split them all, so it's kind of a cheater.
A little bit of a cheater.
It's like you tell the girls, yeah, I drive a twin stick, and then they don't know the difference.
And they're like, what's a twin stick? Really? No. We got an 8-speed manual. Straight dump truck at work yet. It's a 97 Ford. Oh yeah.
L8000.
It's an L8500, I think is what it is. Yeah. So that one's fun to drive. It's just slow. It's slow going, but you don't go very fast anyway, especially if you got a plow in the front and you're salting, you don't go very fast anyway, but that's enough to start shifting gears and put your plow down and engage the salter and engage the spinner and making sure that you're
See, just think if you were just driving with only 2 levers, it'd probably be easier. You're driving like a 3-lever now.
Yeah, 4 more than likely. But but once you get the hang of it, it's no big deal to drive. And I'm sure a twin stick would be the same way. Once you got the hang of it, I'm sure it'd be pretty simple after that.
The other thing, like with an 18 speed or even like a 13 or a 10, once you get used to it, you don't necessarily hit all of those because if you're not loaded or you're empty, you'll skip around. It's just like anything. You got to get the feel for it.
Yep. And like that truck at work, it's geared so low. Top speed's about 42, 45.
Perfect for a township.
It is perfect for
Never
a township.
go more than 6 miles.
It's true. You don't.
6 miles by 6 miles.
Until you gotta go get it tested, and then you gotta drive 20 miles, and you're like, sorry, everybody behind me, but I am maxed out at 46 miles an hour.
That was... Well, like, so all the I always call them real trucks, but like semis and dump trucks and stuff that were, you know, shifter trucks were usually like 10 speeds. And in a 10 speed, you got to shift kind of quick to get it in before you lose it. Well, so then when I bought that Mac, the first time I drove it, it's a 6-speed, but you really only use the 5 because the lows for like coming out of a field. So I always was trying to shift it way too fast and it wouldn't be ready to go in yet.
Got it. Got it.
And then once I figured that out, then it was like no big deal. But it just felt because
And the problem is every damn one of them are different. Mm-hmm. None of them are the same. Mm-hmm. You can get into two exact model trucks, and they're going to shift different.
It was like Mike, the guy with the Hendrickson. He drives hauls propane. Is his his real day job trucking business when he's not Hendricksing on the weekends. I saw him at one of the truck club meetings. I'm like, hey Mike, how you doing? And he's like, I got a new truck. I'm like, oh, how do you like it? He's like, not so much. He's like, it's basically the same truck I had before, but brand new, and it's still a 10-speed. Or he's like, but I just don't like it. It doesn't shift right. It's not, it's like, it's not where I want it to be.
It's just different. Every one of them are.
He's like, I'd rather have my old truck back, to be honest with you.
Even when I was going through CDL school and going through that whole process, they had 3 trucks. 2 of them were the exact same model, the exact same year. All of them manuals. And those 2 shifted so different. Mm-hmm. And it was like, it's hard to believe that. It just really is. But I guess once you get 600,000 miles on a truck, they're going to tend to shift a little different.
But there's so much differentiation when they make a truck. It's not like, you buy a Toyota Corolla. It's got the same engine, the same transmission, the same rear end differential. Well, it'd be front wheel drive, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you get into a semi, all right, maybe you got a 350 Cat, maybe you got a 500 Cat, maybe you got a 500 Cummins. Then you got, even if it's still a 10-speed, is it an Eaton Fuller 10 or is it an Eaton Fuller a Super 10 where you split them both? And then you get into the fact, is it a 488 rear end? Is it, like that?
Exactly.
That truck you got's probably like a 527 or something.
Big sumbitch.
Or is it a road truck with, a 312 rear end set? And that just changes all that stuff much. But that's like, I liked your episode with I can't remember his name, the guy that drove a ready mix truck.
Yeah. Paul.
Yeah. I watched, my dad drove ready mix. So I was like, hey, I know some of that. They're all different, like he was talking about, the Freightliners, because they're this and they're that. And I'm like, yeah.
And it's funny how when we talked in that episode and how it's changed so much from 30 years ago to what it is today.
Well, so like,
and you think about even the pickups that you drive. What were they in 1995? Yeah. You had a radio with a cassette tape.
Air conditioning was kind
of a premium at that point. And then today, you don't even have a CD player.
Mm-hmm. Oh, like my truck, the phone answers for you. It tells you where you're going. It's a pickup. You look at like, my uncle has a 1983 K35. So it's a 1-ton single rear wheel with a 6.2 and a 4-speed manual. He ordered it from the factory. Got 82,000 miles on it.
It's got a 6.2 diesel in it.
Him and my grandpa was big into those. He had 2 of them over the years. But it was like top of the line when he bought it, and he didn't buy it with air conditioning because it was crazy expensive. But you get in it, it was like, when I was a kid, that was like the truck.
The truck.
But, crank up windows. The dash is steel on half. It's got the vinyl on the top and everything on the bottom is steel. And, the radio push buttons.
Man, I want a K10 or a K20 so bad. So bad. Like, I'm talking from 77 to 86.
You should buy one and bring it to the truck convoy.
Yeah, right.
Fundraiser.
I would love to.
Last year,
but right now, those trucks are bringing a friggin' premium.
I almost don't want to say this in public.
Don't tell me off. Tell me off record so I can get a deal.
I know a place.
I like to get deals.
I was like, man, if I had a shop big enough that I didn't make it sit outside.
Oh, if I got a nice one, it wouldn't sit outside. I got plenty of room.
It's a good thing I didn't build a bigger shop. I'd have a lot more garbage at my house.
I'm sure the wife would be pumped about that.
I've had an R model Mac with no rear ends in my driveway for the past 9 months or so.
It's taking you so long. It's not like work or kids or wife or anything that's got to do with that.
Actually,
right?
believe it or not, I got a good excuse. I'm waiting on parts. All good mechanics would tell you that. I finally got, there's 2 rear ends in a semi, and I just finally got the front rear back, and to get my buddy's dad owns a truck shop in urban sprawl territory, and so he's like, hey, I got a guy who used to rebuild those all the time. You want me to take him, just do it for you? And I wanted to do it myself, but like we were talking about earlier, sometimes you just got to let it go and outsource things. And I'm like, you know what? Go ahead. I'll pay you. If I gave you some money from my wallet, would that make you feel better? And so
I got a crisp
the R model
George Washington right here.
Yeah. It's a 387 rear end, which apparently it's a 387 or 378. I can't remember. And apparently that's not very common for those. So there was the bull gear, what it's called, because they're a double reduction, had chunks missing out of it. Apparently in 1.1 million miles, you'll get some wear.
Damn them
Just don't make
trucks.
them like they used to, And he had to order the parts, and they had to cast the gears. So it was almost a year we had to wait for the gears. Well, I did nothing.
You dropped it
I
off.
tore it all apart. No, he picked it up from my house on the gooseneck. I'm
You
such
have
a
to
chump.
drop it off.
Yeah. I'm like an urban sprawl member over here. If I hire somebody to cut my grass, just so, and then finally they called him like, yeah, your parts are in. And he went, and it was the right part numbers on the boxes, but they gave him the same gears in both boxes. The front and rear ends are different. So we had 2 sets of fronts. Yeah. So he's like, I still got the other one. So I got a Mac with a rear end sitting next to it, but I can't really put it together till I have all of them.
Yeah, you kind of need the other part of that. It's kind of
It was going to be like a real quick weekend deal.
right. Would you say 9 months now?
Well, it's been in my driveway for.
Yeah, but I'm saying without axles.
Well, Charlie's going to be 3. And that
I'm glad that you're like, that's been sitting in there because my son is almost 3. I know how long that truck's been sitting there.
My wife was pregnant, and I knew the trunnion stand rotted out. So that's Macs have their own patented. It's called a Camelback. The leaf springs are upside down. They really make really good grain trucks and gravel trucks. They can go off road and stuff so that was rotted out. And Starks, Brad Stark had one. He's like, it won't fit any of our stuff. Make you a great deal on it. It's brand new old stock Mac trunnion stand. You can't really buy them anymore. So I bought that from him. You got to basically unbolt everything and slide the rear ends out. There's a video of it on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, check that out.
Yeah. Everyday American. If you type in Deputy Dog Mac on Google, I'm like the second thing that comes up.
Deputy Dog Mac.
But I was like, all right, I'm just going to pull that off. I'll pull that trunnion stand out, put that back in, and then I got it out. I'm like, you know what? I really don't want to go through all this work and then not have it like 100. Like, I don't want to do this again. So I pulled it out, and then it was like a month or 2 before Charlie was born in like March. And I'm like, yeah, I'll just do that out. 2 good weekends, I'll have this thing back together. And I got it all apart, and I'm like, whoa, I need to rebuild because I don't want to do this again.
Do the job right the
I pulled it
first
apart,
time.
and then Charlie came along before I had anything back together, and then it pretty much sat for, it was probably a year or 2, and then I started making baby steps of progress. But it's kind of the thing, like I don't have time to drive it right now anyways. And
You would make time if it was.
well, the thing is, if I drove it and the boys couldn't come with me, they'd lose it. So like that was,
True.
So
True.
I guess it's just I got other priorities. I got house projects. I got my little construction workers at home.
Yes, you do.
That feeling at 5:00 when the superintendent shows up and you always.
I'll never forget that video. That was funny. Yeah, you got some good ones. That's for sure.
I had one the other day. I was putting a retaining wall up at my house, and my youngest, Charlie, who's going to be 3, is out there, and steals my carpenter pencil, sticks it up in his hat, and he's got, a little 2T size Wrangler cowboy cut jeans on, and he takes my, the little 9-inch torpedo level, got it in his back pocket. Dad, I got it. We'll straighten it out. Don't worry, it's okay.
No big
just
deal.
running there along. I'm like, I'm not even mad. I'm actually impressed,
Oh,
Everything takes twice, 3 times as long, and you just have to like take a breath. It's like I tell people this all the time. I'm like, I lost my dad before I had kids. And I'm like, man, I just wish he was still alive so I could apologize for all the hell I caused him. Because Harvey especially is me when I was a kid, probably maybe turned up a little bit more. and it's like, Dad,
and they're not
sorry
old
for all your stuff I broke.
and they're not old enough to know better yet. Wait till they are. We got to take a quick break.
All right.
This podcast episode is sponsored by Dan's Diesel Performance. If you're looking to improve your truck's performance, efficiency, or appearance, check out Dan's Diesel Performance. They manufacture turbochargers, fuel injectors, fuel pumps, transmissions, intake piping, and much, much more. Plus, they offer all the top brands in the diesel industry. They're located in Machesney Park, Illinois. Visit their website at dansdieselperformance.com or give them a call at 815-977-5865. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you got a lot going on right now.
Yep. I am a FFA Alumni president, father of 2 boys, husband to 1 wife, professional backhoe salesman, and an amateur auctioneer.
Yeah, we went over the auctioneer the last time. Yeah, we did.
I have not progressed any since then.
So you're the wearer of many hats, master of none at this point.
Yep.
That's a good thing to have, though, I think.
I know just enough to get myself into trouble.
Yeah, and I don't think that's always a bad thing, personally, because that means you're smart in a variety of different things.
It's nice to be well-rounded. I know enough to know when I'm being bullshitted.
And then you also know enough to when you go, oh, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't think this is a good idea.
Yeah.
I need help. There's no shame in asking for help when you're like, okay, I'm over my head. I don't know what I'm doing. But when you're well-rounded, it's hard to find that, though, in my opinion. Because when you're well-rounded, you get to the point where you're like, you know what? I did something like this 10 years ago. I think I can do this. And then you get into it and you go, oh, boy. Well, I'm committed now. I just got to let her fly.
It's like between when you're farming or working construction, it's like there's so much stuff that needs to be done. And it's like, I did something like that once. And then, you'll try. But you don't always have to. So you have to remind yourself that in your personal life.
Yeah, exactly.
Just, what's that thing from Jurassic Park? The guy says, he's like, we spent so much time trying to find out if we could. We didn't decide. We never talked about if we should. Or however it goes.
Yeah. That's a great point, right? Because just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. And if you think you can do it, doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Think about that one for a second.
It's like left-handed puppetry.
We're working on a project at work too, and it was like, man, I think we can do this. And talked to my coworker and the boss, and he goes, well, if you think you can do it, do it. I'm like, all right, we're going to do it. So got out the old bandsaw and just started hacking away. And before you know it, I'm like, look at that. I thought we could do it. We did do it. Look at us go.
Look at me go.
And then next time I look,
3 weeks for a 2-day project.
And then the next time I look at it and go, boy, I think we can do this. And then I'm elbow deep in it going, oh man, I probably shouldn't have said we could do this because we're already 3 days into this project. Yeah. But that's where knowledge and experience comes into play, I think.
Someday I'd like to have one or both of those.
Knowledge and or experience.
We'll revisit this in 20 years and see.
Well, hope if YouTube's still up, it'll be here in 20 years, so we can.
I always like to think if I could go back, like 10, 20 years ago and just like relive situations knowing what I know now.
Oh, it'd be way different, wouldn't it?
Like, wow, that would have been way easier. Or like just to tell yourself, like, don't worry, you've got this. You don't know you've got this. Because when I was younger, I was much less busy, and I used to always tell people, don't worry, it all works out in the end. If it hasn't worked out yet, it's just not the end. You forget that as you
do
become engulfed in day-to-day life.
In life. Yeah, it's a crazy ride, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. Anything else you want to add?
Not at the moment. I'd just say, if you're interested in either of those fundraisers, just go over to Marengo FFA Alumni on our Facebook page. We post all the information over there. There's events for both of those that you can find there. And even if you personally are not interested or don't have a truck or a tractor, spectators are welcome. We usually have a lot of kids and families that come out and, kind of check everything. The guys love to share their tractors and trucks and the stories behind them with everybody. And, give us a like, give us a share.
Which is a cool experience for folks that don't know a lot about older tractors and where they started and what they've become to today. So that could be a really cool experience to go out and be like, hey, this is a 1941 John Deere B, and this is a 2010 8370R, 8360R.
I don't know the new ones.
It would be it's a heck of a difference in
like for example, like Max Wilson you've had on here before. The last couple of years the tractor that he's driven, even though he's a green guy, he's got is it an H or an M that was his mom's dad or his mom's grandpa that he bought new.
It's her, right? It's Jen's?
No,
parents?
Jen's family has red tractors, but Max has one that was, he calls it Grandpa Froling.
His
mom
right.
was a Froling.
You're right.
And that when I first saw him there, I'm like, Max, is everything okay?
You bleed green and you're over
help?
the red one.
I've met your wife, but she's making you. He's like, no, it's his Grandpa Froling's tractor. It's sat for years. And I don't know if he bought it brand new, but had it for a very, very long time. And then, like Eldon Paff, for years he was, I don't know how, he passed away a couple years ago, but he would always come and he would drive it was either an H or an M that was restored that I think he bought new or close to it. And he was, I don't know, I'm going to lie to you and tell you, but he was, like in his 80s and he still drove his tractor in the deal. I mean, that was just really cool.
That's cool.
So Eldon would drive a tractor, his wife drove a tractor. And then Ted and his dad Dennis would all drive tractors. The whole family was there with their red tractors. And then a couple of like Gary Harp one year he drove. He had an M or a Super M. He unhooked it from the feed mixer that they used to mix feed for the kids' 4-H animals that morning and drove it to town and still had the corn dust on it and stuff. I'm like, hey, we're glad to have you. Like I've had a couple people say like, oh, my truck's not nice enough. I'm like, no big deal. We don't discriminate.
Good. We'd like to hear that.
Red, green, pink. What do we got? A couple of jammers.
What's that guy's name that's saying Big Green Tractor? Jason Aldean. There's a parody of that. It's my Pretty Pink Tractor. You ever heard it?
No.
It's hilarious. Watch it sometime. Check it out on YouTube. But yeah, I mean, you take all kinds down there, anything from old to new. And like I said, if you don't know a whole lot about tractors, it's cool to show up and see all the different makes and models that there really are, that there really was, to see where we're at today.
Yeah, we've come a long way.
All of us have. Every single one of us.
I meant the tractors, but the rest of us.
But the tractors have too. Yeah, like I said, it's hard to believe that 35 years ago, they just came out with auto steer. So cool. The tractor will drive itself in a straight line across the field. Everybody was like, I got that tree at the end of the fence line. I know exactly what I'm doing. And now you won't find a farmer that'll go without it. It's just unbelievable.
When my grandpa was born in 27, and he farmed down, his family where he grew up was down in like Malta, DeKalb, and he had like post-traumatic stress from the Farmall F12 because he was the oldest of I think 4 or 5 boys, and then he had a sister was after him, but he was the oldest, and they bought a Farmall F12, which was a big deal back in the day with, like a 2-row cultivator back when they planted with the chain or the wires with the knobs on them so you could cultivate both ways.
Yep.
And he spent basically his entire childhood cultivating on an F12 with a steel seat in, the 30s. And he did not like those tractors at all. I remember seeing him at like the Boone County Fair, And I was like, hey, Grandpa, look at this. He's like, I don't really care for those.
Yeah, I don't want to even look.
And then
at
my brother or my grandma or somebody told me the story. I'm like, oh, that's why. He just kept walking.
My great grandfather in like 1941 or 2 had an F-20, and he wanted to trade it in on a new Farm LM. And this was up north in Wisconsin. And they said, hey, we can't get one right now because the war's going on. So all the steel's going towards the war. Yeah. And he said, well, the first M you get, you call me. I'm going to come in and get it. So he took that F-20, and it was whatever, 1946, 1948. I can't remember which year it was. I'm going to say it's 48. He gets a call from dealer. Hey, we got one. He goes, I'm on my way. I'm going to bring my F-20 in and trade it. So he drives his F-20 to town, jumps on the M, starts driving down the road, gets a mile from town, and all of a sudden the front end of the tractor it's a narrow front M.
Yeah.
So all the front of the tractor just starts hopping. Whoa, whoa. He's like, what the heck? Stops, pulls over, gets out, starts looking at it, and the nuts had come loose on the rims. So he walked to town to the hardware store, got lock nuts, came out, put them on. Lock nuts are still in the tractor today.
Really?
Yeah.
On the M that he bought new?
On the M that he bought new. He made it a mile down the road, and the nuts loosened up.
We'd call that a failure at PDI at the dealership.
And the tires started hitting like this,
Yeah.
and it was making the front end jump. Mm-hmm. I just thought that was a funny story.
No, that's cool. I mean, those little stories. My uncle still has my grandpa's 4020 that he bought brand new. He's got a John Deere M, which is kind of
rare,
not super common. Yeah. Actually, when we toured for work, we toured the Davenport Works factory, and that was one of the first things that they made there. It's all construction equipment now, but they have the first one. It's never left the factory. It's never, it still runs, and it's sitting there. It looks just like my grandpa's. My uncle redid it in probably like the late 90s. And it put I don't remember what they're called, the Firestone ag tires that had just come out with like instead of just the 2 bars, it was the 2 and then the little one and then the 2 and the little one. And they found those in that small size for the John Deere M. And
that's cool.
And whenever they would take it to like a show or something, the guys always thought that was cool.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
And my grandpa farmed with that. Like he did a lot of produce stuff. So we'd like plant gladiolas, which are like a flower that grows like an onion. You plant a bulb and then it like got one shoot that comes up with flowers on it, and plant potatoes and all kinds of stuff. I mean, he used it. Yeah. He bought it for $50. And I don't know. It wasn't new when he bought it. It was, I think it's a late 50s model year. So, and that was the first tractor I ever drove by myself on my grandpa's farm in Genoa. My Uncle Paul, he was always the funkle. They would call him the fun uncle.
Oh, yeah.
And we were hauling, they're just taking the little big DMIs empty out to the field so they could fill them up. And then we were coming back with nothing. And my uncle was driving, and he put it in gear, and he was standing on it had a flat drawbar.
Yeah, on the backside.
Yeah, it wasn't a 3-point. It was like a 2-point hitch. It was like a drawbar that went up and down. And he was standing on that, and then he just jumped off. I was in like first or second grade. I'm like, oh, it went like, he was walking next to me.
Yeah,
the thing was so
2 mile an hour, maybe.
But when you were a kid, I'm like, oh, he let me drive by myself. The old 2-cylinder. The Wilson Special.
Yeah. Adam, man, it's good to see you. It's always a pleasure having you here. It's always a pleasure having you come and talk, and we'll definitely put this out. So if anybody's interested in the Marengo FFA,
yeah. If you got any questions, just shoot us a message at the alumni's Facebook page. Those usually go to me, and I'll answer any of the questions you've got. Hopefully in a timely manner, but it's a good time.
Sounds like a plan to me.
Very good, sir.
Thanks for coming. Until next time.
Until next time.
All right, Adam. Talk to you.
Thanks.